So welcome to our project management session today. I'm Archana Jain from Stralin Digital Academy and happy to bring up the Gen AI concept in terms of how it is playing a role in today's project management field. So today we are going to be covering the basic fundamentals of project management lifecycle, the 5 phases of the project management life cycle. We'll go through the key activities in each phases and the key deliverables outcomes. Most of you would already be aware of it, what happens in each phases. But what we are really going to look at is how Gen AI will enable these activities and tasks in each phase. So the focus is going to be looking at Gen AI as an enabler to the project management tasks. So let's look at the phases. I'm sure you all are aware of it, but we'll still go through the 5 phases. The initiation is when you just get your project kick-started, you define your project and approvals. You get into the whole planning phase of it, where you make sure your entire project plan is laid out. And then, of course, the big execution phase where you go through all the tasks and how to make sure the tasks are getting executed. You're managing your project effectively. So you have this phase of monitoring and control going in parallel with your execution phase, right? So they go hand in glove. While you're executing, you monitor and control your project. And then, of course, you have your project closure. So again, remember, project is not an ongoing engagement. It has a start and an end, every project. And that's why the project closure is an equally important activity to ensure it's closed properly and everything is signed off as part of the project. I will very briefly touch on PMI and PMBOK. As a project manager, I am sure you all are aware of PMI, the Project Management Institute, which is the leading body of project management today. And they come up with they have project management book, the PMBOK. I think the latest version is 7.1. And it kind of covers all the process areas that as a project manager, we should know. And these process areas play a big role in defining how your project is laid out. Also, where should your prioritization be? And in a lot of ways, these prioritizations also define what tools you should use for your project management, right? Whether you should buy an expensive tool like Microsoft Project, or you go with something like Jira, which you may already have in your organization, or you go with Smartsheet, which enables you to do your day-to-day task management and don't need a lot of advanced capabilities. So just talking about the 10 PM areas: scope management, schedule management, cost management, quality management, resource management, communication management, risk management, procurement management, stakeholder management. And of course, the last one is putting all these process areas together is the integration management. So the 10 knowledge areas. We have a course called the Basics of Project Management, or New Project Managers, where we cover these PM areas, PMBOK areas in more detail. So feel free to take a look at that as well. So with that understanding, let's look at Gen AI more holistically, right? What is the overarching value that Gen AI is bringing in project management today? So if you look at it from a 30,000 feet, let's look at it from a 30,000 feet. We talk about, obviously, automation. The repetitive task can be automated, right? All the mundane activities that today PM spends so much time on, they can be automated. The Gen AI can manage project schedules and resource allocations. How and what value it provides there, we will look in a little bit down in the presentation as we go through this session. It will provide a lot of predictive analytics details that will enable us to measure metrics, mitigate risks. Interestingly, right, the analytics are helping us now in project management and project success. So risk mitigation is a big area and plays a big role in whether your project will eventually succeed, get delayed, or not go live. And then decision making. With the Gen AI support, we can make better decisions. There are ideas generation that can happen in the very initial phase of the project. It also helps us look at change requests more holistically, how they're going to impact our project. And then, of course, a lot of content creation, like for reporting, your dashboards, your project documents. Gen AI can enable a lot of these things. Again, these are not exclusive. You have to look at it like, how they all come together. Each of these capabilities of Gen AI, they come together to help you across the different project activities and generating the different project deliverables. So it's really important that we understand how Gen AI is our enabler and not a substitute for us, right? There's a lot of fear out there, and I'm not going to get into those metrics. There's a lot of things like, 75% of project management tasks can be done by Gen AI. So do we really need project managers? And it's a real question out there. But yes, Gen AI is there, but so are the project managers. And without that, projects will not succeed. Let's be very clear on that. But it is for us to realize how we can use Gen AI to enable us to deliver our projects successfully. So let's look at project initiation phase. When we look at project initiation, it is basically the very start of your project. You define your project vision, goals, and objectives. You look into your milestones and your project timelines. You basically start looking at what could cause this project not happen or go successful, right? Any roadblocks, could be organizational challenges, could be technical challenges. So we got to be very careful in terms of what are the potential risks and how to make sure our project is successful. What are the key activities in initiation? So one thing, just remember, not every project manager actually gets involved in the project initiation phase. We could have project sponsors and the senior management deciding still whether this project is viable or not. But in reality, if a project manager can be engaged early on, I think it will be a lot more impactful, and the project success rate definitely goes up much higher because the project manager has a much better understanding of why this project came about. So it will definitely help in defining your project objectives, the scope, the goal. What is the desired end result? What products are we looking for? What is included and what is not in scope, right? We talk about creating something called a project charter. I've seen many projects today where a project charter is not really generated, nothing called a document that says this is the project charter, but still, we need to make sure the objectives, stakeholders, the high level requirements, risks, these are all being captured in some form or the other, ideally in a project charter, but if not, they should be captured at the initiation of a project. It's really important that we identify our stakeholders early on, the stakeholder analysis. Who are the stakeholders, individuals, groups, organization, and start building our stakeholder register. What is the role they're going to play? What is their influence, right? The potential impact on the project. Feasibility study is very, very important. We need to make sure that we understand the analysis of the feasibility of this project. What is the viability of this project? Is this project having significant challenges economically, legally, operationally, technically? There's so many aspects of it. Doing a feasibility study is really important before we kickstart a project. A lot of the projects, they stop midway because some or the other challenge that was not thought through early on was encumbered or encountered, and it delayed or canceled the project. Initial risk identification, again, make sure you know what potential risks are there, and risks identification and management happens throughout the project until we are at a closure point, right? And the project has gone live. So do not underestimate doing risk identification right from day one of your project. And then developing your preliminary project schedule, the initial schedule. How long is this project going to be? 5 years, 3 years, 18 months, 6 months? What is your project schedule going to look like? And then your resource identification and budgeting. We are not just talking about people here. We are talking about all kinds of resources, your infrastructure, your hardware, your software, and the cost that it will have. So you need to budget all of that. And of course, a project initiation has to have an approval. It has to say all stakeholder sponsors are onboarded and we are good to go. So that approval is very important. So based on the key activities that we just went through, you can see the key deliverables, your charter document, your stakeholder register, your feasibility report, initial risk register that we need to have, your initial schedule and budget for the project, and of course, how the project will get signed off, right? Now, this is what project initiation is all about, irrespective of whether we are doing everything the old way, what methodology we use, or whether we are using AI-powered tool or not. So now coming to an impact of Gen AI, let's look at a case study. Okay, so we are going to use this case study throughout this session to kind of have a perspective on how Gen AI could potentially enable a project like this. And some of you may have worked on a project where we talk about integrating systems, right? So just as an example, two companies are coming together. Tech Corp has acquired InnoData. TechCorp is a software solutions provider, and InnoData has specialization in data analytics and customer insights. So obviously, they want to enhance the product offerings and create a suite of products which are enhanced or leveraging the analytics for improved customer engagement. And they would like to make sure that they have a unified system that will cater to their business needs and their processes. A look at the sponsors and the stakeholders, right? So you have your sponsors. If you think of a CRM system, your users are your sales teams, your marketing teams, your customer support team. And again, these are teams coming from Tech Corp and the system they have acquired, right? So from InnoData as well. So you have two different cultures coming together. And then you have your SMEs who are responsible to make sure all the processes get integrated, your data experts where data migration integration needs to happen, and of course, your strong IT team that needs to bring it all together. And then you have all your infrastructure and everything that needs to be in place. So there are a lot of goals here. Obviously, your unified system, the data coming it all together, all your processes have to be integrated to one processes that both the teams can use. Your enhanced customer insight, which is the reason why this acquisition happened, training and support for the user base to use the new system and the processes, change management to bring the two cultures together, and of course, the go live and cutover has to be successful, right? This is the case study. Just take a look at it and understand what needs to be done in this project. We are talking right from project initiation, which happened because two companies came together and they want to bring in their CRM systems together and make sure that, this unification of the CRM system, both from process, data, and people perspective, is happening, right? So just a quick view of the Gen AI for initiation phase. We see the project charter can be auto-drafted. It will provide a charter initial draft using the organizational goals and the project goals if they have been documented. Your stakeholder analysis can be used to generate your stakeholder register, both internal and external. And of course, a very common thing that you see today, your chatbot assistants, right? They can engage with stakeholders and gather their initial inputs too. So Gen AI or your AI assistants for project management can help you do that. Your feasibility analysis with the Gen AI tools can prepare some scenarios, some trending using market data or organizational demands to decide on the feasibility of this project. So it's a great way to use your AI assistance to enable a feasibility of the project. It can also give you ideas on how to make this project successful. So idea generation is another part of AI algorithms that really help us decide how to that we have some thoughts and processes on mitigating the challenges and getting the project successful, which leads into risk register, right? What could potentially cause this project not to be successful, and what are the strategies that we need to think about when getting this project off the ground and making it successful. All right, so that's for the initiation phase. Let's look at the planning phase. Now, project planning is where every project manager is really there and they have their heels dug and get this going. So we are talking about getting your budget and your plan ready for resource management, for your task scheduling. Basically, the what, how, when is all there in your project plan. And project plan is not just schedule, remember. As a project manager, you're responsible for a lot of things: communication, risk management, change management. All those things come together in your planning phase. And of course, you kind of go deeper into defining your project scope. So again, remember, this has nothing to do with your methodology, your waterfall or your agile or versions of agile like Scrum or Kanban board or something. These phases of project management, they are true no matter what methodology that you use. Okay, so remember that as a project manager, these phases apply irrespective of the iterations, the number of sprints that you do, or one waterfall approach. A look at the key activities that we have in the project planning phase. We are talking about developing your project plan, your scope, your breakdown structures, your components, and then you are also making sure you set the roadmap for your project execution and control. Sometimes, the project methodology also gets defined or revised here. You may develop your project methodology early on, but sometimes it gets revisited when you're doing your project planning and you realize there are some challenges, right? So it plays a big role in your project roadmap. Then your work breakdown structure, your projects needs to be broken down into smaller, manageable tasks. You create your tree-like structure for your task. You identify your dependencies, and you make sure you can track each task. Depends on the tool that you're using, depends upon how the dependencies are laid out between tasks, but you do the breakdown structure. It's important for you to have your project manageable. And then you have to define all your project deliverables, right? At what stage of the project will each deliverable be completed, tested, everything. When it should go live, depending upon your methodology. So that has to be done. You do your budget and your schedule planning, right? So put your timelines together. If your project is going to go for the next 18 months, you are doing a CRM integration. Could take anywhere from 1 year to 18 months, right? Cannot be expedited no matter how hard you try. You need to have your timelines, your milestones, your cutover plans. All those have to be ready and a budget to support that. Every project, again, remember, it's a start and an end. So your timeline, your budget, and your resources, they all have their limitations, right? Nothing is infinite, although there are dependencies, and one of them gets decided based on the challenges in the other two sometimes. That's how your triangle works, right? But yes, it's important that you keep that in perspective. What is a project? And then, of course, your resource allocation has to be done very efficiently, right? You have to make sure your resources are allocated to the tasks, taking into consideration task priorities and the dependencies. I cannot emphasize on risk management more. It is there in every phase of the project. Make sure you're identifying your potential risks, what your risk analysis is going to be, what your strategy is going to be to mitigate them, and how do you ensure that you have the right resources to mitigate them. So there is a plan there's a dependency also on mitigating your risks, right? And then, of course, you have to plan for some uncertainties. Sometimes your schedule takes into consideration those uncertainties. You could have a dependency on some external product that is coming first time into your environment, and you may not know if that is there. So, like we are talking about in this project, data dependencies, right? Data consolidation, there could be unknowns. The data could be really, really bad. It's an unknown. So, plan for it. Make sure it's included. Then if you look at the key deliverables, right? So we talked about the activities. A lot of you would be familiar with it being a project manager or looking at, some of the project management aspect of projects that you are part of. You have the project management plan. It includes your cost, your quality, resources, communications, procurement plans, everything is there. Then you have your detailed work breakdown structure. You have your risk management plan, and of course, your project schedule, your Gantt charts, your timelines, depending upon which tool you're using, your resource plan, and your detailed communication plan that can be rolled out as your project is progressing. All right, so let's look at some of these. So when we talk about the project plan, it can definitely help with Gen AI can help with automating your work breakdown structures, your timelines, your cost estimations. And these are a lot of them are driven by your project objectives and the historical data. So it plays a big role in how it reads the data and how it can enable you to get your project plan ready. It can also help with your communication, content creation, right? Content creation is a big part of Gen AI. A lot of Gen AI is driven by the content it is creating for us, the human-like text that it generates for us, right? So it can definitely help with the content creation for the different types of reports and the documentation that need to go out. We talk about task prioritization. That's a big part of it. The analysis that Gen AI today in the tools can do will help with your optimal resource allocation, right? It can do that. It can manage your prioritization of your resources based on your plan and how the task can be more optimally utilized. It's a big challenge in every project, how to best use my resources, when will my resources be idle, and how I can make sure dependencies are built so I can maximize my resource utilization. So that's a big part that Gen AI can help with. And then risk planning. The AI algorithms, they can help with the simulation, right? So you can look at AI predicted risk mitigation scenarios and what can be done, their recommendation. AI also gives you recommendation and how you can mitigate some of those risks. If any of you have experience with some of the AI powered tool, you will see some of these features are there. Some of the tools have more of these, less of something else, depends upon what their strengths are, but they're there. And project managers have to step themselves up in this area in learning how AI can help them do their jobs better. So that's a critical part of how today Gen AI is going to make our jobs easier. We'll move on to the next phase, the project execution phase. Now, this is where obviously the rubber meets the road. We are talking about now executing the project and as a project manager, monitoring all the project status as the project progresses, engaging with all your stakeholders and your team members, having a good, strong communication with all of them. You have a communication plan now in place. Uh, and most of the projects today use some kind of a tool. I mean, I have used multiple tools, but some tool is really required to manage the projects. I mean, some small projects can be done with just using even Excel, but you still need something to drive your tasks and your dependencies and your resources, but you need that. So let's look at the key activities. We'll do this from an execution perspective, but you will see a little bit of monitoring and control also coming here because, like I said, project execution and project control and monitoring is going on in parallel, right? So you'll see them merging together, but we will also talk about exclusively on project monitoring and control. So we are definitely focused on executing tasks. We monitor task progress. We provide guidance and support to make sure the team members have the support that they need. Uh, we identify any issues that they may have during the project and make sure that, they are not at a point where they are kind of on a hold, right? And we also are making sure that the project resources like your hardware, software, infrastructure, they're all being made available. Sometimes it is some kind of training also that is needed initially, like, if there are process related trainings to be given, these are all being planned for. They are not, it is not assumed that it is just a technical thing, especially when we are looking at a project like CRMs coming together, right? Quality controls is a big part in execution, right? So we have to make sure that, we are doing the quality checks, we are ensuring that corrective actions are being taken, and we are managing and monitoring the effectiveness of our quality control processes. So having quality control is one thing, right? Putting all your metrics, everything together. Are they actually effective? That also has to be managed, and if necessary, corrective actions have to be taken in that area as well. And we obviously continue to manage our risk, potential risk, the risks that are very now look very realistic for whatever reason, what happened in the project. We, if necessary, we immediately put into action the risk response plans or the risk management plan. And we make sure that all the key stakeholders are involved, are informed about risk if they arise or if we think we might run into some risks. A key part in project management is to manage your stakeholder expectations and continuously communicate with them. So even if they have not asked for it, it is our job to make sure we are communicating, we are sending them the information, and we are ensuring that we take their input. So many times we have seen that, project is going really well, and then we have this one stakeholder meeting, and you suddenly see the boat rocking, right? So it is important that we manage our stakeholder expectations and keep them updated. And we ensure that, we have our team meetings also happening regularly. So everybody is onboarded and the entire team has open and transparent communication, and those status updates are going out regularly. During project execution, a lot of other things also go on. These are just some of the top level things I pointed out, but you talk about it, you have your change management of any changes, change requests that are coming in. You're doing your financial management. So as per the project plan, executing task and managing it means you're looking at your budget and your resourcing cost also. And you are also monitoring all the other aspects of project that are there in the preview of your project. So a project may have too many things, right? If a CRM integration is going on, your data, your vendors, your procurement and everything. So everything is coming together in the execution phase and you manage and monitor all of it. So what are the key deliverables from here besides your actual deliverables, right? You have to have your status reports updated. Some people do it rack status. There are various ways how you build your dashboards for your executive sponsors, for your steer codes, and then for your teams. But again, remember, it's an open, transparent communication. We need to maintain the statuses transparently. Your risk and issues log register, your quality assurance reports, which are coming out of your monitoring and control aspect of your phase, and then any change requests that are coming in. So it could be, some changes will happen while the project is in execution. You need to manage it because you did a demo to your user base and they realize that, oh, this process actually works a little bit differently. So can you make that change? That has to be evaluated and approved, right? So yes, you have to take that into consideration. And of course, your completed deliverables. So if you are doing agile, you will have a continuous flow of deliverables which will go into UAT phase. Even if they may not go into cutover, they will still go into some kind of user testing. So those need to be done as well. So just looking at it from a larger perspective for the execution phase. Task management, we talked about it. It can automate your task updates. This is all happening in real time, right? So now you see the difference where, we have a meeting 2 weeks down the road with this tier core, right? So we're already preparing for it and continuously updating it. Now you have your AI assistants to help you with that. And the AI powered chatbots, they are available in tools today. They can help with the collaboration and task updates. Real-time optimization of resources. Prioritization plays a big role. We have a lot of things falling apart if we are not fully evaluating the task prioritizations, and then you miss on your critical path sometimes. If you do that, your prioritization is impacted and your resource allocation gets impacted, right? So Gen AI powered or your AI assistants can help you with that. Your decision making is something that you do a lot when you are running a project, right? But now you have an AI assistance that will give you recommendations based on the analytics that it is running on the project and the historical data based on what your organization has been doing and how it can look at some of the risks that are coming up. So it will help you, give you, or not help you, but give you recommendations on what could minimize project deviations, right? So you have data now to make informed decisions, right? Again, remember, AI is still evolving and there is a lot of work going on. So you cannot take data just at face value all the time, especially when you're making critical decisions. Make sure you do your due diligence also, that you can trust this data. And we'll look at some of the risk of Gen AI down the road in a few more slides down. And then, of course, the quality control task. We'll look at this in the next session, in the next phase. But yes, automation of quality control task is a big part. So a lot of AI generated now algorithms that we have today, they do a lot of quality control. They even help with assurance testing from a quality control perspective. So definitely there is value with your AI generated or your AI powered tool in the quality control aspect as well. All right, so that just puts it right into project monitoring and control phase. So you are having this project go on for quite some time, right? You need to manage it. So you have to track your performance of your project, your team performance, how your resources are working out, KPIs and goals have been set early on. And it's all a living document. Make sure you are looking at those very carefully. Your contracts are in place, so make sure that you're tracking your performance against all your KPIs. You have to make sure you do your variances, right? So compare your projected budget, your scope against the actuals now. And you have to make sure your deliverables are meeting the expected outcomes. So monitor quality of deliverables. These are all ongoing processes. They are not a one-time thing that you happen only at the end when a deliverable is ready. It has to happen throughout, right? And the feedbacks have to be given and taken care of. So let's look at the key activities. So when we talk about project performance management, we are talking about your schedule management. We are talking about your resource management. We are talking about financial control, your expenditures. You're controlling your cost within the project budget. And then, of course, the reporting all those appropriately. So resources, make sure you're not over allocating your resources. And if there are schedule delays, make sure you have your recovery plans in place to mitigate the delays, right? The risk due to the delay or any kind of impact on the overall project due to the delays. Perform your variance analysis. I'm sure a lot of you do that. So make sure your budget, schedule, scope, your variance analysis is being performed, and you are able to measure your actuals against your projected and make necessary adjustments if needed. As a project manager, we have to do it all the time. Do not ignore this aspect, because you don't want to suddenly realize I need approval to go get another 500 UK USD to run my project, right? So make sure you are doing this. Your risk and change management, again, part of your monitoring. Make sure you are monitoring it, you are controlling it, right? Potential threats, already threats that are happening, mitigate them, eliminate the risk, and then continuously look at, as your project progresses, whatever mitigation strategies you have put in place, you have to mitigate. You have to look at the effectiveness also to make sure that they are effective, right? So make sure you are doing that. And then you're also managing your change requests and updating your plan. So any change request comes in, you evaluate. If you are approving that change request, make sure it's part of the plan now. So not everything is getting added on as an afterthought, right? It is becoming part of your real living plan that you have today. You do your quality controls, right? So you make sure that your project is meeting the quality standards, the quality audits are happening, inspections are happening, and there is continuous feedback to make sure that, if there are any challenges, rework needs to be done. We need to take care of early on, so that, your standards for your quality of your deliverables will be met down the road. You don't want to miss that aspect at all. And of course, the communication that needs to happen, it is part of your monitoring and control. You are making sure regular updates are going on, you are managing your stakeholder expectations. Any communication challenges today that might be there in your project, you address it so you don't have that down the road. Maybe it happened that a new stakeholder came in, right? Make sure your communication plan is updated to include that stakeholder and make sure their expectations are getting set. Today's agile world, you cannot say no change, right? So it has to happen. And then involve your stakeholders in your key decision making. So if you have to make a decision, make sure that, they are part of it and the communication is there, but their inputs are considered. And decision making is a key part in your project to make sure you stay on track. There are a lot of tools and everything out there to help you with these. I'm not talking about just AI powered tools, but traditionally also you have had project management softwares and other kind of methodologies that have been used to make sure you're maximizing those. What are your key deliverables? You will see an overlap from your project execution phase, your performance reports, managing your project schedule, cost, timelines, your variance reports, right? Your budget schedule, then your updated risk and your issues log, your change log and approved change request. Those all have to be tracked, monitored, maintained. These are all things that are being signed off, right? So make sure they are being tracked and managed. And of course, your quality control reports, they play a big, big role in your project success of your project delivery and the sign-offs that you get from there. It is very important that you ensure your quality of your deliverables are being met. Looking at Gen AI in the monitoring phase in a more generic sense, we talk about the predictive analytics for project monitoring, looking at potential delays, cost overruns, scope challenges. We get real-time data from the execution phase. We talk about your automated report generation for your variance analysis that needs to happen, your KPIs, how you are measuring against that, against your established baselines, right? Every project will have some baselines that you will measure against yourself. So there are variance reports that your AI assistants can generate for you that will give you the deviations in time, cost, and scope. So use those capabilities effectively. You don't have to sit and do it manually then. Your change management, enabling it, right? Your your AI assistants can help you better manage your change requests, like we talked about earlier. So that's another aspect in the monitoring phase that helps you. And of course, your risk management, continuous engagement, your AI assistance is there for detecting new risks that come up, right? So a typical example is, for example, you're doing a CRM and you suddenly realize your product catalog has more data cleanup and more consolidation to be done. Now, cleaning up your catalog can take a lot of effort, right? So there is a huge risk in your schedule and your cost. You may have the people, but you have to delay your project schedule, and that's a cost implication. So with the analytics of the project, which can look at the catalogs across the two organizations coming together, your AI assistants can help you put together this view better and help you look at this risk that could be a potential risk in the future and help you have an effective resolution plan for that. All right, project closure. Every project has to come to an end. Again, that's why operations, they're not really considered a project because they're ongoing, but within operations, you have these enhancements and all, which are projects, right? So project closure is a very important phase of your project. This is where you make sure that you are closing your project cleanly. There are no loose ends. Your deliverables are done. You are looking at what you learned from the project. And it is an opportunity for your team to give their inputs on their experience. And of course, a celebration, right? If your project delivers successfully, which I'm sure we will make sure it does, right? We are project managers. It's a time to celebrate for sure. So what are the deliverables here? So when you come to a closure phase of your project, your cutover is done, your project has gone live, but still everything is there, right? You have to make sure your deliverables are not only completed, but also accepted, right? So you have to make sure you get formal acceptance from your stakeholders, from your clients, whoever is your sign of authority. That's the document that needs to be there with you as a project manager. Make sure all your contracts and procurement activities have a formal closeout. So you may have been working with multiple vendors, both for software, hardware, resources. Make sure all your contracts are properly closed out. And then your project resources, they may have to be either reallocated or released or freed up. Make sure that is being taken care of. As a project manager, you are responsible for your project resources. Have a project review, post-project review. I have seen many projects where it is actually not done, and we miss out on a lot of lessons learned from the project. So make sure you are driving that project review, a post-project review, a lessons learned session, and capture the improvements and the communications that need to happen as a result of this project review. So these need to be captured in the as a proper asset, right, for future projects. And they should be communicated to your stakeholders. So everybody is aware of it. It is not a document that needs to be put on shelf and never to be looked at again. It has to be done in the right format so it adds value to the organization. All your project documents and assets must be properly archived, completed, and then put in the right documentation library. Depends on where your organization is putting it. You should be aware of it as a project manager. What is the archival mechanism of your organization? It's definitely a skill to have to know how your organization operates and what needs to be done at the closure of your project. And your final communication that check, all these tasks have been done in the project closure activities, and communication needs to go out to stakeholders. So there are no loose ends. So a lot of responsibility on the project closure, but looking at the key deliverables, we need to make sure all these deliverables are being done before I go to the but that I said earlier. Formal acceptance, your closure reports, your lessons and document, your final project report, summary of everything that you have done on this project, right? And then your archival or your asset archivals that need to happen. And then your contract closure documents, including your resources that need to be released, freed up, or reallocated. So we talked through most of these, your project closure reports, your post-project reviews, which is your lessons learned sessions that are there. Your AI-driven insights on lessons learned will also contribute to it. Again, remember, Gen AI will help you with your lessons learned. So there will be AI-driven insights also along with the team insights, right? So make sure you use those effectively with your AI assistance tool. Then your future project roadmap. I mean, it's not only when you kickstart a future project how this will help you. A closure of this project properly will also help you generate a roadmap in terms of, what your organization can do for future projects as part of continuation of their roadmap to meet their organizational goals and objectives, right? And then asset archival, your project documentation, definitely Gen AI plays a big role there. So it can do a lot of automatic closure of your contracts also if necessary. If your organization is okay with that, it can do that. So your AI algorithms play a big role in how it is structured in your organization. So definitely going through these 5 phases, you have seen how Gen AI can enable as a project manager to reduce a lot of your workload, but then do a lot of value added tasks, which today we as project managers struggle with, right? So Gen AI is there to support us, to enable us, be our assistant, to help us do the tasks that we had really wanted to spend time on. So make sure that, you are bringing in those skills in you and you're helping an organization that you're a part of move towards adopting the Gen AI powered tools in your organization. We'll just do a brief look at some of the tools that are out there today. Again, I'm not advertising for any tools. I'm not saying go for this tool or that tool, but it's there's so many tools out there, right? Just a view of it, and you have to decide based on the skills that you want to have and what your organization needs from you and from the project that they want you to deliver, which tool may be the right tool. Just because an organization already has a project management tool may not be the right tool for your organization or for your project rather. So Asana is picking up a lot of AI-based power tool today, right? It provides smart fields, it provides summaries, it can do editing, statuses, it can do responses for you, do analytics for you, right? We have Trello, which does a lot of task and automation, but also a lot of predictive analytics and task prioritization. So big features in Trello that are out there. Monday, it can help with a lot of task automation, your action items builder, your formula builder for task. How do you prioritize and all? You can define all that. So these tools have picked up a lot of volumes out there today in terms of being the AI tools. But there are like our established tools which are also coming up. Your Microsoft Project always has been my favorite. I love using Microsoft Project, but it is a complex tool. Definitely can use a lot of AI features. Your smart sheet is there, very simple, basic tool, but does a lot of good work. Jira, Teamwork, Rike, Zoho projects. So a lot of tools are there. This is not even a comprehensive list. I think the comprehensive list could have like 20, 30 tools already in it by today, and they are coming up on a daily basis practically with new features, right? So, but think carefully. What is your project meant to be for? How much of AI assistance that you need in that project to help you be more efficient, more effective, and for your project to succeed, and accordingly pick a tool that will help you. And propose it to your sponsors if you see real value in it and get their buy-in. So we are moving towards the conclusion. I want to bring in a few risks that are there with Gen AI today. It's not a wholly regulated, managed industry today, right? So there you will see a lot of risk that when you look at Gen AI doing your analytics, your data crunching, your data modeling and all, make sure that you're aware of these. As organizations are building in their AI models within the organization, right? There are AI risks because there could be security breaches. There is a lot of complexity that can create that. And you have so much of training data that your organization is putting together. So that could create a huge security risk. There is a risk to privacy, right? When you're looking at building data, you have to make sure you're taking care, or your organization, you have to be a part of it, right? Ensure you have these skills to ensure, to help them make sure that no confidential data is getting added. If you see any flaws in the AI algorithm, highlight those, right? And help your organization with the data protection regulations. Industry is still coming up with a lot of these regulations, so a lot of support from individuals like us is needed. There's a data dependency bias, right? A systemic bias. If the training data is not clean in the organization, there is a risk in the algorithms that are running, right? So models that are fed with this data, they could provide a representation of data that could be biased based on certain more data versus less data of other aspects, right? So the skewed perspective comes in. So be aware of it, okay? What is hallucinations? So these are outputs where the content resembles factual data, but could be actually a pure fabrication. And if you're using Chat GPT, Bard, you will see these hallucinations coming in sometimes depending upon what kind of question you have framed and what you're looking for. So, when you are in the real, when you're looking at the global data, if you feel like this data doesn't look right, run it a few times and see how the data is varying, or run it with different of these available Gen AI tools and see how the data looks different, because sometimes these hallucinations, they can really make you create fake models which are really harmful to the organization. So don't blindly believe what you are seeing. Accountability and transparency goes without saying. Be responsible, right? Be transparent. Make sure that if there is any misinformation that is being done through this data that is being provided, make sure you are highlighting that and being aware of it. Make yourself aware of it by learning more and more about the data that is there. A lot of fraud is going on by putting in wrong data out in the world, not within an organization, but we don't work within limited organizational scope in a black box, right? We are always looking at global as well as within. So make sure the fake data from the global systems are not impacting your organizational data, and keep all the legal perspectives that you can in perspective so that you are able to support your organization clearly. So again, if you, as a project manager, if you look at yourself and how you can help build your Gen AI skills, right? Understanding all these aspects of Gen AI risks is part of building your skills in knowing how Gen AI can help you become better project managers. Apply these skills in your day-to-day jobs. So just to summarize, when we talk about Gen AI that we have seen, the decision making has definitely support of Gen AI assistance. Your automation of repetitive tasks has gone significantly higher with the support of Gen AI. Predictive analytics for risk mitigation, so many things, not just risk mitigation, but in a project, risk mitigation must be put on a very high priority, and make sure that you are using it continuously, the capabilities of Gen AI, to ensure that you are mitigating the risks. Communication and collaboration can definitely be improved a lot with the simple features like your AI-powered chatbots, right? They can improve your communication so much. So make sure you're using it in your organization and with your teams, and you are using it yourself. Don't stand away and expect your teams to use it, but hey, this is too much technology for me, I don't want to do it. No, please be part of it, right? And then creativity and innovation. How? Gen AI can do your idea generation. It can generate simulations for you, models for you. So use those capabilities. Don't get bogged down by schedules and, making sure that, project is moving and all. Take a breather to ensure you are continuously looking at how your project can be done better and improved, which will eventually actually help you be more successful. And then, of course, content generation, a lot of the grunt work goes out of your hands. And I am really happy about that. All these dashboards and all these status reports, drafts are getting ready, and beautiful dashboards that are being generated. But validate it, recheck it. It is not where you can just let it push it out, right? Some of those have to be relooked. So make sure you're bringing in that interface, your human intelligence and interface into the content being generated. To conclude, human and AI interaction, right? We have to balance those with our oversight. So yes, we are there and we are going to be, we are not going away. We have to make sure we are a part of it. And always remember, and it has been the trend, whenever new technologies have come up, there has been a fear that, are people going to lose their job? And we have survived industrial revolution, your internet, your so many things have come in. But technology complements. We are just becoming better and better at doing our jobs and doing more value added jobs, right? So, technology, it is there to support us, to enable us, to complement us. But yes, some of the jobs today that we are doing will go away, but we are able to do more value added tasks because of that. So, take it as a good step forward with Gen AI coming in and learn more about it, right? So what we are talking about is when we look at Gen AI project management, and this addresses some of the tool-related questions that Raviraj you had. We want to look more closely at how Gen AI will help us, go through each of these phases using some of the tools that are out there, right? So we'll talk about, during project initiation and planning, how you can make sure that with the help of Gen AI, you are able to scope your project for success. So we'll actually walk through scenario and kind of bring up some of the tool that can help us do that in terms of managing the initiation and planning of the phase. Planning is a big task, and if not done properly, it put your entire project at risk. And then the delivery and actual monitoring and control with closure. So we are going to have these two sessions coming up. I believe some of these sessions are going to be a paid session, but feel free to register for them at a very, very heavily discounted rate. No brainer to join these sessions. Prateek will put the link in the chat window, and you can sign up immediately to join these sessions and be a part of our series of Gen AI project management in terms of leveraging the value of Gen AI in the project management field.